Tuesday, May 25th, 2021 at 7 o'clock. First, we'll start with roll call to the left.
Homer, City Council.
Shelby Carcelari, City Council.
Ronnie Price, Mayor.
Troy Tabor, City Council President.
Dr. Joseph Ford, City Council.
Tim Berry, City Council.
Mike Keller, Police Chief.
Lance Onstott, Assistant City Administrator.
Chad Russell, Fire Chief.
JT Klaus, City Attorney, with Kimberlyn Gilchrist, Attorney for Triplett Wolf Garrettson.
Les Mangus, Director of Community Development.
Susan Renner, City Clerk.
Jennifer McCausland, City Administrator. And I will add, if he's not with us yet, Mr. Mike Warrington will be joining you as a City Council member on Zoom.
Thank you.
I'm on Zoom now. This is Mike.
All right.
All right, and we're going to have Pastor Brad Tuggle do the invocation for us.
Let's pray. Our Father, thank you for such a beautiful day. Thank you that you have sustained us as the school year ends. We're grateful for the protection that you have provided the students and the teachers. We're thankful for the first responders of this community and for their courage, and we pray your protection over them and their families. Now we ask you to grant wisdom to this body, bless the decisions that are made. We're so thankful to live in this community. We pray that you will show us how we might contribute. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Thank you, sir. Now we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. At this time, we'll open up the floor for a public forum. If you want to speak, state your name, your address, and keep her short. Nobody? All right, public forum's closed. Acceptance of agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Citizens request to close park.
All right. Good evening, City Council. I am here representing Music Theater Wichita tonight. And the things that we're asking for tonight, well, they are asking for, I guess, we talked about at the January 12th meeting, and these are a little more formal. So the park closure request, that is something new. We did talk about in January that at that time, they didn't feel the need to close the park for their shows, so they didn't. After these first two shows, which were incredibly successful, they are looking forward to the July show, which is sold out on July 2nd and July 3rd. And the 4th of July has been selling really well as well. So there's going to be a lot more people in the park than these first two. And so they felt that given that it's a holiday and all logistics, they felt that it might be necessary to close the park beginning at 6 for parking and just for their event. So the request is to close the park from 6 p.m. to midnight on July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And then July 5th is a rain date. So if for some reason 2nd, 3rd, or 4th gets rained out, they'd like to have July 5th as their rain date. So that's included if needed. I can answer any questions about that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the request to close Central Park for this from 6 p.m. to midnight on July 2nd, 3rd, the 4th, and 5th if needed.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question. Katie, is there anybody who reserved the part, like the lodge, or I guess not the lodge, but like the gazebo or anything for those nights?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I guess I would ask too, not if they've reserved it, but if we're closing the entire park, dog parks out, I don't know, the obviously disc golf park is out, fishing is out. why are we doing that? I mean, I understand parking, but there's a way to get back to the parking without having to close that entire area off.
So in addition to parking, part of it is their access control. They've had a lot of people, understandably, because the park's open, using the disc golf course and all that, and they've wandered sort of into their area that what they have blocked off in the park. So I think it's more of a just because there's going to be so many more people here than the standard.
Okay. I guess I understand that we could do things to mitigate if it's just disc golfers that are tossing discs in the wrong spot. We could close those holes. I mean, there's an entire other half of the park that should be open.
So they will probably be parking along all those back holes that are on the disc golf course as well, because what they've used so far is about half of that back of the park parking. So it's affected a couple of holes anyway. But with this increase, it's likely they're going to use the entire back of the park to park, sort of like our concerts. We end up using most of the back of the park as well. They do also have the schools parking lots. Not sure how many people have been using that, but they do have that as an option as well. And they've been advertising that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
are they going to be using off-duty police officers or private security to enforce this?
They do have private security with that. And then I believe we have 2 officers each night on duty as well.
Kind of thinking like Troy here. I mean, the park is pretty large, and if it's a beautiful weekend and we're closing the park at 6 p.m. to the taxpayers of Andover, it seems a little rough saying, hey, sorry, you can't use the dog park.
So I believe there's an option as the council that you can close just certain parts. I mean, you don't have to necessarily accept this request in full, I believe. You can designate if you want to keep the dog park open. Is that correct? I don't know.
I would say that's true. I have been messing with my iPad to get things to pull up correctly, so I apologize if you already said this, but part of this request is also because of the fireworks component. Did you cover that and the fact that the fireworks will get set up earlier in the day and we'll need to close Yorktown for part of that? So there's a lot going on with fireworks, putting that. We obviously can't have anybody walking through there regardless of why you are coming to the park. We just can't have you walking through the fireworks display. That's not safe. So we're going to have to shut that area down. I do think Katie's correct. If we use parking like we use parking for our large concerts, which is what it sounds like we're going to have out here, there will not be any disc golf play in the what we call grass parking lot. There just won't be any. So yes, I think you're definitely impacting use of the park 6 p.m. and later. So it's later in the day. But I don't know that there's a very good way to shut off parts of the park and not all of it.
The reality is we have 13th Street Park as well, so they can obviously go do things there as well.
Which is very popular the 4th of July because that's where we try to get people to go shoot fireworks. So yes, excellent point about that.
I wasn't so worried about the disc golfers, even though I love disc golf. I was really thinking more about the dog park and the paths that are back there. They're pretty extensively used till dark, but I guess I'm okay with it this time, but I would really like to go back and think on the future of if there's a better way to allow this and then not cut off the whole park.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
what are the hours of the park, I guess, for the layperson, if you will?
I believe it's 7 a.m. to dusk.
Yep, till dark.
So dark at that time is probably 8:30.
9 o'clock.
So we're talking about 2.5 hours roughly. Thank you, Katie.
And I mean, I guess I would say with that in mind, it's going to be a very noisy park. We have a large production going on. It may or may not be the most enjoyable time to relax and fish or take your dog to the dog park anyway. I mean, there's a lot going on that night.
I would say I'm very appreciative, obviously, of what's going on with this and what they're doing, and I want it to stay forever. But I feel like they also rented the amphitheater and the lodge, not the entire park from end to end.
It is a large event, and based on the fee that they're paying us, that would constitute the large event as per the new policy that you guys adopted at the last meeting, which does include a park closure if you guys approve it. They still have to come for approval, but it does fall under that category.
Okay. I mean, I love the events, so I don't want it to stop. I'm just trying to cover for the city, you know? Okay.
Comparably speaking, will we do better off of this event than we do when we pay somebody to come in and
So they have capped their audiences at 2,500 per what we talked about in January. So when I say sold out, it's 2,500. That's a little bit about what we do on average, if not slightly more than what we've done in the past. I can't say what it's going to be this year. I can only go off of what we have had in the past, but average has been about 2,000 to 3,000 per show.
but we pay an artist to come, and this is contrary to that, correct?
Right. So they're paying us. This is basically a revenue stream for us. We have some labor costs associated with it, but those labor costs are also associated with concerts that we do. So all in all, it's a better deal for us to bring them in than us having all the expenses of bringing an artist in.
I wonder if we can think in the future maybe of how we can accommodate our citizens at the 13th Street Park too. So with the assumption this is going to continue forever, then how is it that we would go about helping out? We don't have to answer that tonight, but just think on it. Yeah.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. 7-3, street closure for fireworks.
We're on 7-2, I think. We didn't do
Oh, I'm
fireworks
sorry.
yet. That's all right. So back in January, you guys also tentative fireworks after all the applications went through the fire department. And we did get those applications in. And so that's what's included in your packet. Up on the screen is a map of the shooting site, which is the same site we use for Greater Andover Days. And so it is for July 3rd and 4th only. They would not be doing this on the 2nd. And then July 5th is a rain date if needed. And the fireworks time is going to be approximately 9:30, which was right after the show ends.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the request for the fireworks display on July 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th if needed in Central Park.
Second. Homer.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask if Mr. Warrington is still with us? Okay, then we should not record him voting yes, Susan, because I don't think he's on.
So,
He is on?
okay.
Mr. Warrington, can you hear us?
I love Zoom.
Okay, let's not.
Give you a
count his
thumbs up,
vote,
Lance.
And I'll try to get a hold of him.
Okay. Just have me stop. So I will change that to 5-0. What about 7-1?
Find out.
Okay. All right, on to 7-3, street closures for fireworks.
All right, so this is to go along with the fireworks. Obviously, they need to set up the fireworks. And with it being along Yorktown Road, we need to close access to that road beginning at noon and then close it till midnight for cleanup and all of that. So that'll be July 3rd and 4th, and then the 5th if needed, if it's a rain date.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
move to approve the request to allow closure of Yorktown Road from Central Avenue to Dam Road on July 3rd, 4th, and 5th if needed from noon to 12 a.m. each night.
Second. Homer.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
He's going to text me, just
Okay, so yes?
Let's just
If it's okay with the council, let's just record him 5-0. In order for him to count as present, he has to be able to interrupt and communicate. And we're having a problem with that right now, so.
Okay.
If he has an issue with anything, he can text Susan, but for right now, let's just record him 5-0, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. 7-4 ACHS Gridiron Club fees, and Ryan Barkdahl?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Hi, my name's Ryan. I'm here to represent the Andover Central Gridiron Club. We're a booster club for the football program. 2 years ago, before COVID, we were able to host a pep rally at the amphitheater, kind of like a homecoming deal. And it was a great success. We had over 1,000 people that came. We had food trucks, and the community was involved. And it's basically for the students and athletes and stuff like that. So we're just last time they were able to forego the fee for us to use the amphitheater. So we're just requesting that again tonight to see if we could get that again, because the money would basically come from the Booster Club to pay for the activity, and we'd like to use that money for other needs towards the football program if we could.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I do have a question. I guess, forgive me, but why would you not use the Central's football stadium and stuff? Because I know it's pretty new, right?
Sure, it's a good question. The atmosphere that the amphitheater brings, having like a concert type thing, we have a DJ right in the middle. The football players come down to the front. The dancers perform. We have the dance team perform. The cheerleaders perform. And it creates like a concert type thing. If you were up in the stands and the bleachers, you've got a railing separating it's not structural for people to come and go. So like at the amphitheater, we have all the football players staged at the back, 4th grade all the way up through the varsity team. And we bring them out, they rush the stage, and moms and dads and everybody, cheer for them. And it's just the amphitheater is a perfect scenario for it. The lighting is perfect for the event. We've had people request that we use the stadium because it's a new facility and they want to showcase it, but it just doesn't present for the environment that we want. It's just the amphitheater is perfect for it. It's just very suitable for the event.
It's more inviting to the rest of the community, wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. We tried to have it during Andover Days as a Wednesday night activity to add to it, but it was a little bit of a conflict for some of the band because they have a lot of activities going on that week. We didn't want to overwhelm the students, so we moved it to a different day. But maybe in the future, we'd like to incorporate it with Andover Days. It's just another celebration. So it was a pretty good time. And the amphitheater is a very suitable venue for it.
It's a great community event. So,
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move to approve Andover Central High School Gridiron Club's request to waive base reservation fees for the use of the Capitol Federal Amphitheater on September 1st, 2021, and to have food trucks on site at the event.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Mr. Mayor, I need to ask JT a question. I give money to this group. Should I abstain from this vote?
Do you make money from this
I
group?
do not.
Then you do not need to
Perfect.
abstain.
Thank you.
Good question.
Good question. Very good question. So I have yay at 5, right?
Yes.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you for what you do, Ryan. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Appreciate it.
7-5 Green Valley 5-6 HOA partial street closure.
Good evening. I'm Melissa Cross, and I'm the social chair for Green Valley 5 and 6. We host an annual barbecue, and we're requesting the closure right there off of Lakeside and Fairway. Some barricades the police department will normally drop off. We block off that little road going by the pool, and then we'll set up a bouncy house and do a cookout on June 5th from 4 to 9 p.m.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the request for a partial street closure on Saturday, June 5th from 4 to 9 p.m. for Green Valley 5 and 6 Edition Residence Pool Party.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I realize I do have a question. Can I ask it? I see that it's a partial closure. Why not? I see there's 3 entrances. We're closing one. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a loop. Fairway Loop is actually a loop. So we didn't want to close both sides, so residents on that road will have access to get out should they wish not to participate. And this just blocks off the pool area where we all congregate. Usually everyone's swimming, bouncy houses, DJs, kind of like all in that one vicinity.
Okay, thank you. Chief Keller, you're okay with it? Thanks. That's all I had, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
So, see you next year.
Thank you.
8-1, Police Department. Chief Keller is going to take over.
Where'd he go? Can I have Officer Joe McLaughlin come up? Mayor, council, on Tuesday, February 11th, 2020, at approximately 4:30 a.m. in the morning, 2 Rose Hill PD officers were on routine patrol when they observed a vehicle leaving a residential area. The vehicle did not use a turn signal in making a turn and failed to dim the headlights when it passed the oncoming police vehicle. Officers made a U-turn, and when they attempted to stop the vehicle, a police pursuit began, with the suspect driver driving recklessly, passing vehicles, driving in the oncoming lane, and reaching speeds of 100 miles an hour. Eventually, the vehicle entered the city limits of Andover, then turned east and went back into the county on a dirt road, causing extreme visibility issues because of the dust. Suspect vehicle, which ended up being a stolen vehicle out of Wichita, eventually struck head-on an oncoming Butler County Sheriff's vehicle, and the driver exited his overturned vehicle from the passenger side and then fled on foot. Andover Officer MPO Joel McLaughlin and his K-9 partner Bandit, along with Butler County Deputy Luke Grimes, arrived shortly thereafter, and with the assistance of a Rose Hill officer, the K-9 began to track the suspect. K-9 Bandit and the officers tracked the suspect south from the truck, across the road, approximately another 400 feet, over a fence line, through another field to a service-type road, down the road, along a pond, and into a thick overgrowth area, is when Bandit went from a ground scenting to an air scenting track, indicating that he was very close to the suspect. At that time, a gunshot sounded, and all of the officers immediately took cover, with Officer McLaughlin pulling back his K-9 very quickly. At that time, the officers maintained their position and waited for a KHP, Kansas Highway Patrol airplane, to arrive, and eventually, through the use of their flare system, was able to indicate the location of the suspect, not very far away from the officers. After a standoff of almost 2 hours, in the cold morning February air, the suspect exited the trees onto the service road, still holding his firearm. Still holding his firearm down by his side in his right hand, with his body bladed and the gun away from the officers. After several commands at gunpoint by the officers, including a warning that the K-9 would be sent in, the suspect dropped his gun and put his hands up and was taken into custody without further assistance. Therefore, having met the requirements of our general orders recommended by the awards board and approved by myself, MPO Joel McLaughlin shall receive our department's first Silver Wreath of Valor. Obviously, Officer McLaughlin has a large fan club here. His family is here, plus a number of our officers are here. We did not bring Bandit tonight because of Officer McLaughlin's been working all day and didn't want to leave Bandit in the car. You want to say anything? You're good? Brave out there. Thank you, sir. Congratulations. I'd like to make two additional quick comments on that. First of all, this is, I said the very first silver award. A couple years ago, we adopted some new awards. One of them being a silver award of valor, and he's the first one to receive that award from our department. The second thing is, if you recall, about a month ago, we, here in this room, we awarded MPO Hampton a life-saving award. Well, it's my honor, privilege to tell you that tomorrow night at the Kansas Chiefs Association's annual awards banquet, Valor Awards Banquet in Wichita, both of these officers will be receiving gold and silver awards from the state association. They'll be recognizing about 50, I think it was 57 officers from around the state for acts of valor over the last, for 2020. And we got 2 of those 50 plus officers.
Wow. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Consent agenda first, right?
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, can I just ask Chief Keller a question in regards to,
Absolutely.
does Bandit get an award by proxy? Or, I mean, I'm being serious as far as, you know, is he, okay.
Silver Milk Bone Award.
I'm sorry, I wasn't turned on. Not used to being up here. We would normally give them like a treat, but our police dogs don't get those things, not until after they retire because of the way they're trained.
Okay.
But it's a good point that
Very good question, I thought.
I thought they were, I thought, and this could be me watching a lot of TV, that a police dog was a police officer.
They are.
Okay.
They have a badge. They are. We consider them. We probably should have also given the dog one. He was actually the closest when the gun went off. It's a good point.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Sorry to
Lance?
interrupt, Mr. Mayor. We've been working behind the scenes to see if we can get Councilmember Warrington's audio to work through the speakers. So I'm going to give him space real quick to try to talk and see if we can hear him.
Okay.
And it looks like it is not quite yet resolved, so we'll keep working behind the scenes on that.
All right. Just let me know, okay? Consent agenda.
Mr.
Oh, President, I'm sorry. I seen you sitting out there. A long day. Presentation, Butler County Community College, Kansas Promise Act. And Dr. Kroll will be speaking with us about that. I was trying to ignore you.
You're just trying to be efficient. I know, that's fine. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. Kim Kroll, I'm president of Butler Community College, and I'm excited to be able to share with you just briefly some information about the Kansas Promise Scholarship Act that the governor signed into law toward the end of April. This Promise Act is transformational for Kansas students across the state, and we're really, really excited about it. We've been in front of the Butler County USDs in the last couple of weeks. We're hitting the city commissions and the chambers trying to get on their schedules, and then we'll be in front of the USDs in the service area as well to share information with everyone. And there's still more information to come, but just briefly what I want to tell you is that this Scholarship Act that the governor signed into law will allow Kansas high school graduates within a year after graduation, a Kansas resident that's 21 or older, that's been a Kansas resident for at least 3 years, military dependents, homeschool students to attend a community college or a technical college in Kansas and enroll in eligible programs that have been approved by the Board of Regents. And it's considered a last dollar scholarship. So after the students apply any federal aid that they have, or any other scholarships that maybe they're getting from their school district or their church or somebody like that, if they still have a remaining balance on their tuition and fee bill or their required course materials, this Promise Act will come in and cover those last remaining costs for them. So in essence, it will allow students, eligible students, to attend a community or technical college in eligible programs almost free of charge. So it's a phenomenal opportunity for our Kansas students across the state. The legislation that the legislature passed identified 4 overarching areas. And those 4 overarching areas are information technology and security. And so, for instance, in Butler programs, that would be things like web design and computer support systems and cybersecurity, things like that. Mental and physical health care. So nursing, CNA, CMA, rad tech, if colleges have rad tech or surge tech programs. Advanced manufacturing and building trades. So again, for Butler, welding, construction tech, engineering technology, any of the aviation programs for some of the institutions, and early childhood education and development. So elementary ed, CDA, childcare specialist kinds of things. And then every community and technical college could choose a 5th area or a 5th program as well. And we've submitted all of our programs to the Board of Regents. They will hopefully all be approved, or they're going to be discussed. And our indications are that the Butler programs that we submitted will all be approved on Thursday this week. And so we'll have a little bit more information to share about those specific programs. But the students will actually have to apply for the scholarship opportunity. One of the requirements that goes along with this is that if they take and access some scholarship dollars, they'll have a specific time that they have to complete their program of study. If they switch programs of study, or if they don't complete their program of study, there's a chance that they would have to pay those scholarship dollars back with interest. One of the other requirements of this is that they accept those scholarship dollars, and after they complete their program, they'll have to stay in Kansas and work for 2 years. If they transfer on to a 4-year institution, then that work requirement would go into play after they finish their bachelor's degree. But really amazing opportunities for students, and we're really excited about just the access that it creates for our Kansas students and Kansas adults. There's a gap in there. If you're 20 years old, you're caught in a little bit of a donut hole that I think when they wrote the legislation, they didn't realize that they were missing that age group, but they'll get changed, I'm sure, in the next legislative session. So I'm looking through my notes here to see if I've missed anything that's really specific. There'll be household incomes that will apply. Those aren't completely set yet, but they'll probably follow pretty closely the federal financial aid guidelines for household income and how students are eligible for federal financial aid. And I'll answer questions. I guess that's kind of what I know right now. We will, as soon as we have approval from the Board of Regents, we'll be sharing information specifically about what our programs will be. All the other community and technical colleges will be doing the same thing. We'll all be required to have quick and easy access to the scholarship application on our website and a list of all of our programs. And so we'll hopefully be able to have that information out before too long. So I'm happy to answer questions if you've got some.
For how long is this program good for? Until the money runs out?
Well, that's a really good question. The fiscal note that they attached to this is $10 million this year. And any money that's not used this year, because it's all based on enrollment for each of our programs, any money that's not used this year, they'll roll over into next year. And I think it's after next year, the legislation actually identified a requirement for the state to fund the program at 150% of the prior year's use, so that there will always be hopefully some additional dollars. It'll be interesting to see, if the $10 million covers it, or if they need, we think in the first year that'll be adequate and there'll be money left over. But there's a great opportunity for students in Kansas based on this. So other questions that you might have? Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Kim, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit late. Can you give us an idea of how many kids in Butler County graduate because of Butler Community College with a degree out of high school?
Oh, out of high school, our early college academy students, the juniors and seniors that enroll in our academy pathways. This year we had 95 area high school students. Last year I think we had 83, and the 2 years prior to that, 77 and 78. So we've had a good group of high school students graduate with their associate's degree, and we figure that. Each of the years that they come to Butler, if you compare their costs at Butler to the four-year average 4-year institutional costs, they save about $8,000 a year. So that, obviously gives them more flexibility and maybe more funding if they decide to transfer on, or, if they're going to go to work, they don't have as much debt. So.
And every year, so it seems like it's trending up. Every year, there's more and more kids walking out of high school with their associates.
Yeah. And top-notch kids. The group of students that graduated this year, I think, amassed more than $2.5 million in scholarship offers from around the nation.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. They're smart kids because they're finishing their high school curriculum, and they're doing cheer and band and football and all of those kinds of things along with the college curriculum. So it's fun to see them be successful.
All right. Thank you for what you do.
Thanks so much.
Okay. On to the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the consent agenda items 10.1 through 10.6 as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Was that Dr. Ford, the second?
11 Prairie Creek Edition, 6 phase. Les, Angus, speak to us.
Back in January of this year, your planning commission approved the 6th phase of the Prairie Creek Edition. That's the 5th phase of the single-family residential portion of the Prairie Creek development. They've taken a few months here to put together all of their required petitions and guarantees, engineers' estimates for the public improvements. But your planning commission recommends that you accept the dedications on the plat that they approved back in January.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to accept the dedications on the Prairie Creek Edition 6th phase final planned unit development plan as approved by the Planning Commission.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. 11.2 petitions, developers agreement, and resolution of advisability. Lance will speak to us.
Mr. Mayor, Council, as you guys are aware, when land is subdivided in the city of Andover, improvements must be made in order for those lots to be served by streets, sanitary sewer, water, drainage from time to time. So petitions by the developer owner have been submitted to you to fulfill that requirement. There are 5 petitions for the streets, the internal streets to serve the actual neighborhood, a petition for improvements to Prairie Creek Road, the arterial that serves this neighborhood, in addition to sanitary sewer, water, and drainage improvements. The petitions for the internal paving, sanitary sewer, and water do reflect a 75% responsibility of the benefit district, and 25% the city at large. Those were drafted in accordance to Section 8 of our policy on public improvements or the financing of them. That sets forth these what we've been referring to as legacy developments. For background on that, obviously in the memo there's a little bit more detail, but for you tonight, the Prairie Creek Edition was originally platted in 2006, so it's been around for a little while. The petition for the arterial improvements to Prairie Creek. That reflects the cost sharing between the city at large and the benefit district in accordance to, again, our special assessment policies that we just revised a few months ago, to where the developer is responsible for basically a 2-lane asphalt road. And then if it's in the city's interest to upgrade that with curb and gutter to be the full urban improvement, then the city is responsible for taking the rest of that cost. And your staff feels like that is an advisable improvement at this point, so the petition has been drafted with the cost share that reflects that. The stormwater petition has a different cost sharing percentage to it. It's 97.6-ish of those costs are the responsibility of the benefit district, the developer, and then the remainder is the city at large. So that again was drafted in accordance with Section 8, the 25% considerations, but that is always subject to available funds. So that we had advised the owner that the stormwater utility fund, in order to fund the city's portion of that, we were most comfortable with keeping that at a $40,000 contribution, which is how that's reflected in the percentages. So those are the questions about any of the petitions. There's a lot, and they're all a little different. So again, I'll pause there if you have any questions about the petitions themselves. So in addition to the petitions, there's a developers agreement that lays out the relationship between the city and the owner when they petition the governing body to make improvements using special assessments. And then the resolution of advisability that the council must consider in order to for the owner to use special assessments to build these improvements.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to accept the petitions for internal paving, Prairie Creek Road paving, sanitary sewer, water, and stormwater drain, approve the developers agreement, and adopt a resolution of advisability related to the Prairie Creek Addition 6th phase.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. 11-3 work order.
We heard Mike.
I think we heard Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right.
Mike, try and speak again.
Yeah.
You there, Mike?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, thank you.
Whoa, whoa.
All right,
Yeah.
11-3 work ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, Council, again, when utilizing special assessments, nothing can actually be constructed using that method of financing until the governing body considers the adoption of a work ordinance that actually authorizes those improvements.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to adopt an ordinance authorizing the construction of certain internal improvements related to the Prairie Creek Addition 6th phase.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed, nay. I heard you that time, Mike. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. 11.4 petitions requesting reallocation of special assessments.
So I'll kind of explain these next three individual votes for the next two, but I'll kind of give you the background on that. So in a previous phase, during a previous phase of development of Prairie Creek, some improvements, the cost of some improvements, both to 13th Street, Prairie Creek Road, and some sanitary sewer improvements that had been made previously were assessed to property within the Prairie Creek development that hadn't been platted at that time. So they assessed some of those costs to undeveloped land. Some of that undeveloped land has now been subdivided into Prairie Creek 6th edition. So now that it went from one unplatted large tract to subdivided into separate lots, the developer is petitioning to respread that earlier assessment across the newly created lots. So the first action for you is to consider the acceptance of the petitions making that request. And then when we actually levy special assessments against these properties, those are done by ordinance. So the next two are actually amending the ordinances and levying basically a new special assessment across those newly created lots.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Lance, so these are all newly created. There's not housing on here. We're not going back to these houses and saying, oh, by the way, here's more specials.
Correct. It is just taking what was one undeveloped, since we've split them into Prairie Creek 6, then I don't remember off the top of my head how many lots that is, but it's just spreading it on undeveloped. Yet none of those lots have houses on.
Thank you.
They're all owned by the petitioner or the developer.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
So Lance, kind of piggyback on what Tim was maybe asking about too, has he already paid on those special assessments for those lots? Is it up to him what to charge those lots?
So he has set forth, he has proposed how he wants those splits across the newly created lots that he owns. So there was a balance of those improvements. He has been paying on that, but now he still owns all the property that's responsible for the paying. It's just now, instead of an unplatted tract having that full balance, he's going to divide that balance across, let's say it's 20 lots equally.
Okay.
It's more or less, and the city attorney can add if I don't describe it exactly right, but it's more or less an accounting measure for the developer.
JT, you have something?
Yeah, I just want to say that 2 of the assessments have a couple years collected on them, and so only the balance, the ordinance is very clear that only the balance will be moved to the platted lots. The other one hasn't even gotten to a payment levy yet, so we're actually adjusting it before the first levy would be due in connection with the ordinance. And assuming you accept the petitions, those are levied by the city, and he doesn't get to, I mean, he's suggesting that we do this on a per lot basis, but after this, he cannot change them. In addition, the city typically charges the cost of these sort of reassessment projects to the developer. They are complicated. And so we charge those costs back, and because they're complicated and don't match with the original petition, the developer indemnifies the city. So if there ever is a dispute over what a property owner bought or owes versus what was supposed to be paid in advance, the developer indemnifies the city for that cost, including any attorney's fees, if it should become an argument.
Thank you, JT. Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to accept the petitions requesting the reallocation of special assessments levied by ordinance number 1544 and ordinance number 1780.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. 11.5, amending special assessments ordinance 1544.
No, like I said during the petition item, once you accept those, to actually execute the respreading or reallocation, you'll need to amend the 2 original ordinances, or the 2 effective ordinances at this time.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to adopt an ordinance amending ordinance 1544.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. 11.6, amending special assessments ordinance 1780.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to adopt an ordinance amending ordinance 1780.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. 12.1, North Andover Road KDOT project agreement. Les.
This agreement is the typical boilerplate agreement with KDOT that establishes the relationship between KDOT and the city of Andover for the North Andover Road improvements there in front of Andover High School, which includes widening the road to include a left turn lane, adding traffic signals at the north entrance to the high school and at Allison Street. This is typically what you would call the 80-20 split between federal, WAMPO, KDOT, and the city of Andover. But in this case, the city share is a little bit larger because some work was added after the fact to the scope to do some maintenance work outside of the scope of the original project. Some overlay work, some culvert work up near 21st Street. So the relationship here is that 80-20 on the original scope of the work, which half of the city's share approximately is split between the city and USD 385, and then the remainder of those maintenance activities are city at large from the street department.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the project agreement with the Kansas Department of Transportation for the widening of Andover Road from the Redbud Trail to Ira Court to accommodate the addition of the center left turn lanes and traffic signals at the Andover School campus.
Second. Troy.
Any further discussion?
Is there a timeline for this, Les?
It's set for bid in March of 2022. And it would be a project that would take the entire construction season, so it'll be complete sometime late fall.
Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. City bounty resolution.
Mr. Mayor, Council, largely a procedural item. Each year that the city would change its boundary, either through annexation, which is obviously the most common, or de-annexation, which doesn't happen often, we're required by state statute to declare our boundary via a resolution. So before you on your screens and included in your packet is the city limits as they exist now. So we're here talking about the reason why we're doing this is because we adjusted those city limits at some point in time in the year 2020. So the only change to the city boundary or the city limits during 2020, what's on your screen now, which is a small sliver of property directly east adjacent to the USD 385 Metal Arc and Caps building. That was the only change necessitating this resolution. I can answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I move to adopt a resolution declaring the legal boundaries of the city of Andover.
Second, Homer.
Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Yorktown Streetscape Change Order number 2. And Rick's going to talk to us about this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. As you may recall, during our workshop sessions and preliminary portions of the Yorktown Streetscape project, Council had requested 3 items be added to the bids as alternatives. One of those was the pathway walkway lighting on the west side of Lake George. When we got the bids in, staff made a recommendation not to accept those. Those came in at approximately $63,000, well, been $66,000, and was thinking it was maybe just a little bit high. And then, since then, the contractor contacted the city after the bid award and said that they and the subcontractor both bid the foundations, which added to about $16,000 extra work, and asked if we would be interested if we wanted to go ahead and add that back in with that reduction. Staff had been working to prepare in the 2022 budget that work into the budget anyway. And with the rising cost of materials, staff feels that maybe it's time to do this now. And we could then adjust our proposed 2022 budget and remove that back out. I would stand for any questions if you have any.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
When we go back and revisit stuff like this, so it was a bidder, everybody failed, they came back and offered a reduction in their bid based on a misunderstanding or an oversight per se on how they bid it. Would we go back to all of the bidders and offer up the same, them to reduce it in the same way, or even ask?
So we can't we accepted the contract with the one bidder. You can't piecemeal what you select on a project like this. You select the lowest overall bid typically.
Right.
They were by far the lowest overall bid, by far.
Even though we rejected it.
Even though if we added or rejected, they would have been the lowest bid by far on this particular project. However, I've been doing this for 30 some years, and this is maybe the second time I've heard something like this happen. So it's very uncommon that somebody comes back and says, oh, we had too much in our bid, we'd like to lower it. Typically, it's after the fact they want more money, as you guys see when change orders come through and so forth. But so this is kind of a uniqueness of an item. It's not something I've seen very often. And so, you know, we got the request, we sat on it for a little bit, thought about it. And then as I look at the material costs going up, when we order sign blanks, our cost is going up 20, 30% between times when we order it, you know, a month apart. And so it's kind of made me think that there's a lot of metal in this project and so forth, that maybe would be advisable to proceed with it this year, and we can control our costs. We know what it is. If we wait to bid it, I suspect it will be more expensive.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
move to approve the change order request number 2 in the amount of $50,913.38 for pedestrian lighting along the west side of Lake George as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Hey, Rick, what is this going to do with the timeline?
It shouldn't adjust it much. They didn't ask for any additional time. Obviously, they're making a lot of progress now. It was kind of a slow start, but they're going along pretty fast now. If they hit weather that is good, I don't think it'll make much of a difference.
Thank you.
Can we get the blue lights like the street lights? Just ask. Actually, by the way, I love the blue. I don't know if you, I mean,
I think you're the only one.
I like the purple. It's softer and it doesn't matter.
I like the lavender. That's really appealing.
You know, I actually, because it's been brought up and because we have gotten a lot of questions on Twitter, Facebook, I think a public meeting would be an appropriate time to address the purple light in the room. Would you?
Like me to?
Yes, I would.
Ms. McCausland? So I have conversed with Evergy. It is a manufactured defect in the lights that is developing over time. They suspect that extreme cold snap caused some of them to at least speed up the process. And they still have some continually to turn to that purplish color. The manufacturer has, I guess, expressed to Evergy or told Evergy, at least as I'm told, that they will come back and they are going to hire a contractor to come back and change all those lights out. As you can imagine, Andover's not the only ones with these lights. You may think that because it happened to be on Andover Road, which happens to be one of our busier roads, obviously. But I am assured by Evergy that this is not a uniqueness to Andover. It is all over the Wichita metro area and probably up in the Kansas City area too, because they probably use the same vendor. But so they're hoping to get all these failures done and then have the contractor show up. Contractor come in and change them out. It will not be an overnight process either. That will take a lot of time because there's a lot of them. So yes, the city is aware. No, we did not select color. These are not color changeable RGB lights. They are.
Can we do red and green for Christmas?
Right. As much as I like to do that, this is not what these are. It is a manufacturer defect that Evergy is aware of and plans to get corrected.
So we don't get to keep our purple lights.
I kind of like them.
You might be able to make a deal for the actual light fixture if you would like.
All right.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So in the words of Tim, what's the timeline? I know they say it's going to be a long time, but have you heard of any timeline from Evergy this year, next year kind of thing? Or
I was not given a timeline, and I don't think Evergy wants to give a timeline. There's some things that are out of their control too, as far as I have a sneaky suspicion that this is also across the United States. So as the manufacturer is hiring contractors to go make these repairs, and it's going to be a little bit of availability of the product, which, as we all understand now, sometimes getting product is really hard, and getting a contractor on site to do the work. So I was told it'll probably be a little bit of time. That was how it was worded to me. I pressed and I was not given any more. Nobody was going to commit a time. Let's put it that way.
Thank you, sir.
Since we're a smaller city, I can assure you that we'll be the last in line to get. Fortunately, people like them. So, all right. All right, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Did we hear Mike?
I didn't hear him.
Mike?
Oh, I'm here.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. 15-1 resolution 2019-2024 Homeland. Gosh darn, man. 2019 to 2024 Kansas Homeland Security Region G.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is a somewhat procedural item before you tonight. Department of Emergency Management worked with, the Butler County Department of Emergency Management worked with all of the cities back in 2019 to create a hazard mitigation plan. The state of Kansas had a consultant take all of these plans from all 105 counties and put this together as the state plan. We did participate in the planning at that time. There was a requirement in order for cities, townships, school districts, everybody that participated in order to get FEMA funds, if and when needed, that you needed to formally adopt the plan. There wasn't a timeline attached to it at that time. And if you recall what happened in 2020, things kind of hit the fan and a lot of things got dropped. Apparently, we never formally adopted this plan. Often when we talk about things like this, it's kind of like this fuzzy hypothetical. Well, what would we be out if we don't adopt it? And we say, well, FEMA money if something happens. Well, I actually have a concrete example to give you because right after Carrie Korthels with the county contacted all the cities that hadn't yet adopted and said, hey, you guys are going to want to do this by July 15th, the state rolled out the Sunflower Residential Safe Room Program. You might have seen that on our Facebook page and some others. It's an opportunity for residents to build a safe room in their house and get some FEMA funds to help offset those costs. So that's money to residents. That is not money that goes to a government or a jurisdiction. A requirement is if you must live in a city that's adopted a hazard mitigation plan. And so in order to make our residents who might be interested in that opportunity able to receive those funds, we do need to adopt this, and then that would go forward with any other FEMA hazard-related funds now through 2024. Happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move to adopt the 2019 to 2024 Kansas Homeland Security Region G Hazard Mitigation Plan as the hazard mitigation plan for Butler County.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. 16-1, attorney-client privilege, KSA 754319B2.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move to recess into executive session for consultation with the city attorney pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2, which would be deemed privilege in the attorney-client relationship. The session is to include the governing body, city administrator, Kimberlyn Gilchrist of Triplet Wolf Garrettson, the assistant city administrator, and the city attorney. The open meeting will resume at 8:35.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 4-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd move that we recess into executive session. Would I read the same KSA or would it be a different? Okay, no, okay. For consultation with the city attorney pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. The session is to include the governing body, city administrator, Kimberly Gilchrist of Triplet Wolf and Garrettson, the assistant city administrator, and the city attorney for approximately 15 minutes to return at 8:55.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, I would ask that those staff who don't have an item that they need to report on at the end of the meeting and are not in the executive session could leave.
Yeah, feel free. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries.
To come out of executive session. Executive session.
So are we doing that?
Can I get a second?
Second, Troy.
Any further discussion?
Troy seconded.
I said it really loudly.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. All right, member items.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have anything.
Me either.
Well, yeah, just one. I did have a family event. I won't go into it, but several of you reached out in various ways, and our family very much appreciates it. Thank you very much.
I have the privilege of being married to my beautiful wife for 24 years this coming weekend.
Congrats.
And I couldn't ask for a better partner in life. I love her dearly. Next year's the silver anniversary, so we're pushing toward that. But love of my life, best friend in my world. So that's it.
I do have a couple. I want to wish good luck to Andover Central baseball team. They're going to state starting Thursday. They start Thursday, and hopefully they'll play for the championship on Friday. There's some really good teams in the state tournament, so hopefully they do really well. Congratulations to all the recently graduates. That's always fun. I think I hit 7 graduation parties on Sunday, so that's all I have.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Absolutely.
The reason I came back, I checked my notes, and I would have been remiss by not making sure that I invited you and the entire community to come see the police officers and the firefighters on June 5th at 8:30 p.m. right here in the park. We're having our 6:30, 18:30 p.m. We are having the Police and Fire Festival, so come on out.
Very good. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear.